Hello, Alderwood. For those who are newer to Alderwood Community Church, my name is Doug Johns, and I serve you as the chairman of the Elder Board. Today, I'm bringing a mid-year update. Mid-year, that's right. Our fiscal year stretches from September to August, so we've just passed the halfway mark. Additionally, it's almost exactly 2 years since the first Sunday that our congregation was impacted by the COVID shutdowns. So it seems an appropriate time to share a State of the Union, if you will. Whereas unlike the real State of the Union, I will not be interrupted by hundreds of people mid-sentence, nor do I expect that CNN and Fox will issue competing versions of my speech that are completely contradictory. Now, this is going to be much more straightforward and much more celebratory, because there is no doubt that over the last 2 years, God has blessed and protected the people of Alderwood Community Church and has brought our church family through a very difficult time with amazing results. So let's dig in to what is happening at Alderwood right now and how is the health of our organization? Because the fact is, we are an organization in addition to a church family. We've got attendance, we've got financial figures, and those need to be strong. Let's talk about attendance. In the year leading up to March 2020, the COVID impact, we averaged 1,520 people on a Sunday. And that's across adult services, children's ministry, and ASM. Obviously, that dropped way off for a while. But I'm happy to tell you that there have been several Sundays recently where we have exceeded 1,600 people. And in fact, on Sunday, the March 6th, it was 1,743 across all those different services and ministries. So more than 200 additional people engaging with Alderwood Community Church, taking in the teaching, learning more about Christ and the gospel. We have more people today than we did before the pandemic. Now, you might say, hey, Doug, that feels a little bit high. When I look around the room, my highly calibrated eye says it's about 1,400. Okay, well, you're right. There are different kinds of engagement today than there were before the pandemic, and that includes people who are engaging online. And right now, we're around 350 people a week that are taking in the Alderwood Community Church sermon through our online channels. And that's both synchronous, like on Sunday morning, and asynchronous, meaning throughout the week. And I highly encourage everyone to consider that. If you are missing on a Sunday, pick up the sermon during the week from app. The app is the best place, or the website. Both of those work well. And I tell you what, I did that this Sunday. I was visiting my 93-year-old grandmother at her church in Oregon. And so later in the week, I picked up Pastor Wyatt's sermon on Daniel. And there's nothing more motivating during an intense cardio workout than Pastor Wyatt and prophecy. I assure you, try it. It's fantastic. So we are back in terms of the number of people that are engaging in our ministries. And I'm thankful that God has brought people for that. Side note, it's time again to park off-site. If you and your family are able to cover the distance, I ask you to begin looking at the parking spots over in JR Furniture. Our friends there have continued to make their lot available to us, and it's wonderful if you can leave some of the spaces closer to the building for those who are mobility challenged, for guests who don't know about that off-site parking, and for families with little kids. So please help me with that. It's also time to start making sure you sit in the middle of the row. Don't block those ends. Leave room for the people coming in. It's just exciting to know and feel that people are coming back again. So beyond attendance, all right, let's talk finances, and that's the reality of a church. We do have a budget, we do have an income, and we rely on the faithfulness of people who call ACC home to make it all work. And the good news is we are financially healthy. We have come through the pandemic with the generous giving from our ACC family members, and through the grace of God, in a very good place in terms of money. You're giving across all funds, and that's the general fund, the missions fund, the Compassion Center fund, has continued to be strong. And I'm especially thankful for those who've continued to give to the Legacy of Compassion Capital Campaign Fund. We now have approximately $300,000 remaining on the mortgage for the building that we've turned into the Compassion Center. But remember, we started with a $5.2 million project in 2018. So that's wonderful progress, and we're nearly there. And thank you for those who continue to give to that fund. I'd like to close that out and be debt-free on our real estate and our facilities. Let's talk about the general fund, and that's the one, along with missions, that you see when you would look at the online email each week that summarizes the activities at the church. It's scroll down and it's at the bottom. You can see exactly where we are. But as a high-level story, after a notable drop in giving in the last fiscal year, this year, which we're halfway through, is on pace to match the year entering the pandemic in giving. So it appears that as folks have been returning to church, are also returning to giving. Many never stopped. But the giving this year looks to be on par with the year entering the pandemic, which is a blessing. The other side of finances is the spending. And those who've been with Alderwood a long time know that we have a history of responsible and conservative spending, and that has continued. This year's budget is $400,000 less than the year entering the pandemic. It's the lowest budget that we set since the year 2017. Now that difference between the income and the giving is allowing us, the income and the expenses, is allowing us to restore some of our reserves, including the Building Capital Maintenance Fund, which we'd largely depleted over the last few years. Just this last Elder Board meeting, we were able to move some monies out of the general fund back into the Capital Maintenance Fund and have fully stocked reserves for any emergency repairs, which I hope we don't need to use, but we need to have those funds available. So looking ahead to next fiscal year, which begins in September of 2022, the budget for us will increase. It'll increase as much as 10%. Which sounds like a large figure, but that takes us back to the levels of still a few years ago. We have to cover a couple of things. One of those is inflation. I need not educate everyone on what's happening with expenses and prices. But also, please remember that the largest cost of our organization is our wonderful staff that serves us so well. We need to be able to have appropriate increases in the wages and salaries of our staff in order to keep them up to par with what's happening in the economy with inflation. So if you're a person who gives a static amount each week, the same amount each week or each month, not a percentage of your income, then I ask you to please consider increasing that amount, even starting now. And if you're not yet worshiping with us through giving, I invite you to join us. We're glad that you're here, and we're happy to have you as part of the family. I think that's enough on finances. Let's talk about what's happening at Alderwood in our spiritual health. Pastor Wyatt has begun the collection of words, connect, grow, and go. So how are we doing in the areas of connect, grow, and go? A couple of stats and exciting stories for you. On the connection front, one of the best ways for us to measure connection is participation in groups. We encourage everyone to branch beyond the Sunday service and be part of a smaller community of believers who can support and encourage each other in living life and following Christ. And that might be a life group or that might be a Bible study. It can have many forms, but please find a group of fellow believers that are part of this church or outside this church, but especially inside this church, that you can grow and live with, connect with. Well, we've seen some wonderful connection in this last 6-month period. We have over 70 people who've participated in the SALT classes. There are currently 117 people actively participating in 4 Bible studies that are open to all. On average, we have 139 attending our Senior Tuesdays, which is a wonderful ministry with a time of worship music together and then breaking out into elective studies after that music time. There's plenty of room for more. And in life groups, we have 488 people participating in life groups. That's an increase of 64 people since September in this fiscal year. Now, those are big numbers, and we're happy about that, and I'm excited for what's happening in the lives of the people who are participating, and I encourage more people to participate. If you're not yet connected, you can head to the Alderwood website /connect and find a way to plug in. And if you have a heart for helping others connect, we are always looking for more life group leaders and Bible study teachers. I encourage you to reach out to a pastor or reach out to an elder, raise your hand and say, yes, I'd like to do that. In particular, we have a number of young families who are eager to be in a group that's led by a couple who's perhaps a little bit further along in their marriage and family raising journey, and who has the space to host that those young families may not. So if that's you, please come forward. It's a rewarding thing to serve in that way. Connect, grow, and go. To grow, that's to grow in our faith, to grow in our understanding of the Word, to grow in our application of the Word. And in addition to clearly teaching and proclaiming salvation through Jesus Christ, we must examine and apply what it means to live as a follower of Jesus Christ. And we've seen that in the teaching through Daniel and the concept of living as an exile. I think all of the teaching that we have seen since Pastor Wyatt has taken the helm has continued the heritage of excellent biblical-based teaching of Alderwood Community Church. And I could not be more pleased, and I know that you are as well, with how seamless that transition has gone. Well, the Board of Elders has encouraged Pastor Wyatt to challenge us as a congregation in his teaching. Let's not just take it easy. Let us address the most relevant topics of our day through the biblical lens. And so a few months ago, Pastor Wyatt came back to the board and he said, all right, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to take on a topic in a special series coming this May called Jesus, Sex, and Gender. Okay, he's not holding back, but we encourage that and we're looking forward to it. Because this topic of sex and gender, there is no more personal, there is no more opinion-filled topic in our society right now. We see this covered in schools, in the news, on social media, legislatures, bumper stickers, and yard signs. What we do not hear enough of, and what we as Christians must fill our minds with, is biblical teaching on this topic, lest our opinions be formed by the talking heads that we see in media. So in May, Pastor Wyatt is going to have a 4-part series, Jesus, Sex, and Gender. And the 4 sermons are going to be, why did God create sex and gender? How would Jesus love people who are LGBTQ+? What is God's purpose in marriage and singleness? And how can the church reflect Jesus' radical love for the broken? Now, I know this is going to be a challenging topic for all of us. Pastor Wyatt has been spending months in study. He's been working with the board to prepare us for this session as well. And he has found an excellent biblical-based teacher on this topic named Preston Sprinkle. We are investing to bring in this notable national speaker and author on the topic for a special weekend that month in May. And if you want to do your homework, if you want to read ahead on this subject, I encourage you to go read one or both of these books by Preston Sprinkle. The first is called People to be Loved, and that's a book on homosexuality. And the second is called Embodied, and that's a book on transgenderism. And I encourage you, as I have tried to myself, to set aside my societal influences on this topic and to instead dive deep into the biblical teaching so that I can know how Christ would have me act in these spaces. The elders have read these books, and we are supportive of Pastor Wyatt's teaching that's coming in May. Finally, go. Connect, grow, and go. The most visible element of go, beyond our missionary support, is the Compassion Center. You know that it has been almost 2 years now. The first time the Compassion Center opened its doors was May 12th of 2020. And today we are serving every Tuesday over 150 of our neighbors with groceries, with conversation, with the story of salvation, and with just general love and support. Ari and team have also branched out, and now we're hosting in-person dinners, which was the original concept for that ministry. We have over 40 people attending those dinners. We are just about to do the fourth one. And we're reaching children too. The Compassion Center volunteers have recently opened up a homework help center on that same evening when people are coming for their groceries, and have begun to not only assist children, but assist parents. I recently shared a story about a mother who was there for the homework help and expressed that she was unable to help her child with the homework and how useful this was to her. But it's ultimately an opportunity to share the gospel, and that is happening. Recently, one of the children who comes was provided a children's Bible as a gift, and the mother came back and reported to one of our volunteers that two of them had been reading that together every night for the last few weeks, and that the child had even been taking it to school. Wonderful, and it's incredible what God has done and built this ministry during the pandemic. God has not stopped. He has not thwarted it. He is not surprised. One more thing on the Compassion Center is that we are seeing people, neighbors, who are coming in need and being served by us, who are also then taking another step and joining us as a church family. There's over 20 members of our every Sunday Spanish language congregation who originally came to ACC because of the Compassion Center. And we are joyous about that and happy to have them. In fact, that Spanish ministry continues to grow, and some Sundays now we have 100 people in that service just down the hall from the main sanctuary. Well, that's the close for now. I hope that you agree that the state of the union of Alderwood Community Church is strong. It's solid. We're thankful for God's protection during this time. We're thankful for his gifts. And we're thankful that this body of believers is growing again. And I look forward to the next 6 months and the next many years of Alderwood Community Church. If you do have comments, there's no opportunity to post a rebuttal on CNN or YouTube, but please come see me in the lobby, or any of the elders or any of the pastors. You can send a question or an email as well to elders@amcc.org, which reaches the entire board, or directly to me at doug.johns@amcc.org. Thank you very much. God bless.